Chosen one, God said this is your only divine assignment going forward. When you hear that there is one divine assignment going forward, it does not mean that your life suddenly becomes small or limited. It means the opposite. It means your focus becomes clearer, your energy becomes more directed, and your growth becomes more intentional. Many people move through life scattered, responding to every demand, every distraction, every expectation placed on them. A single assignment is not restriction. It is alignment. It is the recognition that your most important work now is not everywhere, but somewhere specific, and that where your attention goes will shape what your future becomes. Stay with this message until the very end, because each layer builds on the one before it, and understanding deepens as you continue. And write your warmest wishes in the comments, and include the number 144 as a conscious act of intention and focused energy. This moment reflects a chapter where awareness begins to influence direction, where inner clarity starts shaping external choices, and where belief is paired with responsibility. This is the only place where wishes are mentioned, because from here forward, the focus moves fully into discipline, consistency, and living in alignment with what truly matters. Now, chosen one, press the hype button like this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. A single assignment does not mean you stop doing many things. It means that all the things you do now serve a deeper purpose instead of pulling you in opposite directions. It means your daily decisions, your habits, your priorities, and your relationships begin to align around one central objective: becoming the most grounded, disciplined, emotionally stable, and responsible version of yourself. This is not glamorous. It is powerful. It is the kind of work that quietly reshapes your entire life over time. Your assignment going forward is not about chasing external validation. It is not about proving yourself to people who do not understand your journey. It is about building internal strength that allows you to handle opportunity, responsibility, and growth without collapsing under pressure. This kind of preparation does not happen by accident. It happens through repeated choices to regulate your emotions, manage your energy, and act with intention instead of impulse. You may notice that distractions begin to lose their appeal. Things that once consumed your time no longer feel satisfying. This is not because they are wrong, but because your system is shifting toward what is more meaningful and sustainable. When focus increases, noise becomes uncomfortable. When clarity grows, confusion becomes less tolerable. Another sign of this assignment is a growing sense of responsibility for your own well-being. You begin to understand that no one else can manage your mindset, habits, or healing for you. Support can help, but ownership belongs to you. This ownership is not heavy. It is empowering. It gives you agency over your progress instead of leaving you dependent on circumstances. You may also notice that your patience begins to deepen. You stop rushing outcomes. You understand that what you are building requires consistency, not urgency. This patience protects you from making desperate decisions that undermine long-term stability. Your assignment also involves learning to respond instead of react. When stress appears, you pause. When conflict arises, you choose your words more carefully. When disappointment happens, you reflect instead of collapsing. This emotional regulation is not weakness. It is strength that allows you to stay effective under pressure. You may also notice a shift in how you view effort. Effort no longer feels like proof that something is wrong. It feels like participation in your own growth. You begin to respect the process of becoming skilled, stable, and capable. This respect changes how you approach challenges. Another part of this assignment is learning to protect your attention. Attention is one of your most valuable resources. Where it goes, energy follows. Where energy goes, results grow. You become more mindful of what you consume mentally and emotionally, because you recognize that your inputs shape your outputs. You may also experience increased clarity around boundaries. You say no more easily. You step away from situations that drain you. You stop over-explaining your choices. These boundaries are not about isolation. They are about protecting your capacity to build what matters. Your assignment also includes developing consistency, not perfection, but reliability. You follow through even when motivation fluctuates. You build routines that support health, focus, and recovery. This consistency compounds into confidence because you trust yourself to show up. You may notice that your goals become more grounded. You focus less on fantasy and more on systems. You think about what you can do daily, weekly, and monthly to move forward. This practical thinking transforms big dreams into achievable plans. Another sign is how you handle comparison. You stop measuring your progress against others. You recognize that your path has its own timing and requirements. This independence protects your confidence and reduces unnecessary pressure. Your assignment also involves developing emotional intelligence. You learn to identify what you feel, why you feel it, and how to respond constructively. This skill improves relationships, decision-making, and stress management. You may also notice that your tolerance for chaos decreases. Disorganized finances, unstable routines, and constant crisis no longer feel normal. You seek order because order supports clarity and calm. Another part of this assignment is learning to delay gratification. You choose long-term benefit over short-term comfort more often. This discipline strengthens financial stability, health, and personal growth. You may also experience a shift in how you define success. Success becomes less about appearances and more about sustainability. You care about building a life that supports your well-being, not just your image. Your assignment also includes learning to rest strategically. Rest is not avoidance. It is recovery that allows you to perform and think clearly. You begin to respect your limits instead of pushing until burnout forces you to stop. You may also notice increased self-respect. You stop tolerating patterns that undermine your growth. You correct your own behavior with firmness and compassion. This balanced self-leadership strengthens integrity. Another sign is improved decision-making. You think through consequences more carefully. You consider long-term impact. This foresight protects you from repeating cycles that once felt inevitable. Your assignment also involves developing humility. You remain open to learning. You accept feedback. You recognize that growth is ongoing. This humility keeps improvement active and prevents stagnation. You may also notice that your emotional reactions become less extreme. You still feel deeply, but feelings no longer control your actions. This regulation allows you to remain effective even when circumstances are challenging. Another part of this assignment is learning to build systems instead of relying on willpower alone. Systems reduce friction and support consistency. They make progress easier to maintain. You may also experience increased clarity about what you are willing to work for. You commit to goals that align with your values rather than chasing everything that looks attractive. This focus strengthens results. Your assignment also includes learning to navigate uncertainty without panic. You accept that not everything will be clear immediately. You trust your ability to adjust as information unfolds. This calm supports better judgment. You may also notice that your communication becomes more direct and respectful. You address issues earlier instead of letting resentment build. This maturity strengthens trust and collaboration. Another sign is increased tolerance for gradual progress. You stop expecting instant transformation. You appreciate small improvements. This patience protects motivation. Your assignment also involves recognizing that leadership begins with self-leadership. How you manage your thoughts, emotions, and habits determines how effectively you influence your environment. You may also notice that your sense of purpose becomes less dramatic and more practical. You focus on daily alignment rather than distant fantasies. This grounded purpose supports consistency. Another part of this assignment is learning to manage stress proactively. You recognize early signs of overload and adjust before crisis. This prevention preserves health and clarity. You may also experience increased trust in your own judgment. You consider advice, but you do not outsource your decisions. This self-trust strengthens independence. Your assignment also includes learning to let go of what no longer fits. Old habits, outdated goals, and misaligned relationships become easier to release. This creates space for growth. You may also notice that your sense of identity becomes more stable. You are less reactive to external opinions. You remain grounded in your values. This stability protects confidence. Another sign is improved adaptability. When plans change, you adjust rather than collapse. This flexibility supports resilience. Your assignment also involves learning to measure progress internally rather than through constant comparison. You track consistency, learning, and alignment. This internal metric supports motivation. You may also experience increased comfort with responsibility. You handle larger tasks without feeling overwhelmed. You trust your capacity to manage complexity. Your assignment is not about perfection. It is about alignment, consistency, and responsibility. It is about becoming someone who can build, sustain, and protect growth over time. As this first part settles, understand this clearly. Your single divine assignment going forward is not about chasing external miracles. It is about mastering the internal conditions that allow miracles to be sustained when they arrive. Focus, discipline, emotional regulation, integrity, and consistency are not small tasks. They are the foundation of every meaningful outcome. What you are being guided toward is not a moment, but a way of living that quietly reshapes your entire future, one aligned choice at a time. As this alignment deepens, you may begin to recognize that your assignment is not something you complete once and then move on from. It is something you live out daily through the way you think, choose, and respond. It is expressed in small, repeated decisions that shape your habits and your character. This is why it feels simple on the surface, but demanding in practice. Staying aligned requires awareness, discipline, and humility over time. You may notice that your sense of urgency begins to change. You are no longer rushing to prove yourself or force results. Instead, you focus on building stability. You understand that stability is what allows growth to last. This shift reduces anxiety and supports more thoughtful planning. Another sign of alignment is that you begin to recognize when something is draining your energy without contributing to your growth. You become more selective with commitments. You stop filling your schedule just to feel busy. You choose what strengthens rather than what simply occupies time. You may also notice that your emotional reactions continue to soften. Situations that once triggered intense frustration or fear now feel manageable. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you are learning how to stay regulated while addressing challenges. Emotional regulation becomes a skill you practice, not a trait you wait to develop. Your assignment also involves learning to listen more carefully to yourself. You pay attention to signs of fatigue, stress, and misalignment. Instead of pushing through every signal, you adjust. This self-attunement prevents burnout and supports long-term consistency. You may also find that your relationship with discipline evolves. Discipline stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like protection. You understand that structure gives you freedom by reducing chaos and indecision. Routines become tools that support clarity and momentum. Another important development is how you handle doubt. Doubt still appears, but it no longer stops you. You acknowledge uncertainty and continue taking small, responsible steps forward. This persistence strengthens confidence and reduces fear-based hesitation. You may also notice that your thinking becomes more focused on solutions than on blame. When problems arise, you look for what can be improved rather than who is at fault. This constructive mindset accelerates progress and reduces emotional conflict. Your assignment also includes learning to respect timing. You recognize that not every opportunity must be acted on immediately. You evaluate readiness, capacity, and alignment. This discernment protects you from overcommitting and under-delivering. You may also experience increased comfort with saying no. You decline requests that conflict with your priorities without excessive guilt. This boundary setting preserves energy for what truly matters. Another shift is how you experience motivation. Motivation becomes less emotional and more identity-based. You act because responsibility and growth are part of who you are becoming, not because you feel inspired in the moment. This consistency builds reliable results. You may also notice that your internal standards become clearer. You know what behavior aligns with your values and what does not. This clarity simplifies decision-making and reduces inner conflict. Your assignment also involves developing patience with learning. You accept that improvement requires repetition and feedback. You stay engaged even when progress feels slow. This patience supports mastery rather than quick fixes. You may also experience increased respect for preparation. You plan, practice, and organize before stepping into larger responsibilities. This preparation reduces anxiety and increases effectiveness. Another important development is how you relate to external validation. You appreciate recognition, but you no longer depend on it to feel worthy. This independence protects confidence and supports authentic choices. You may also notice that your tolerance for emotional avoidance decreases. You address discomfort instead of escaping it. This willingness to face difficult emotions strengthens emotional intelligence and resilience. Your assignment also includes learning to manage energy, not just time. You schedule demanding tasks when focus is strongest. You protect recovery. This energy management supports sustainable productivity. You may also find that your communication becomes more honest and direct. You express needs and concerns earlier rather than allowing resentment to build. This openness improves relationships and reduces unnecessary tension. Another sign of alignment is improved follow-through. You complete what you start more consistently. This reliability strengthens self-trust and professional credibility. You may also notice that your sense of responsibility toward your future becomes stronger. You make choices with long-term impact in mind. This foresight supports stability and growth. Your assignment also involves learning to remain grounded during success. You continue practicing discipline and humility even when things go well. This groundedness protects growth from complacency. You may also experience increased curiosity about improving systems in your life. You refine how you manage finances, health, learning, and relationships. This systems thinking reduces chaos and increases efficiency. Another development is how you handle setbacks involving other people. You evaluate compatibility and timing instead of internalizing everything as personal failure. This perspective protects self-worth and supports healthier decisions. You may also notice that your emotional recovery becomes faster. You process disappointment and return to balance more quickly. This resilience preserves momentum. Your assignment also includes learning to trust your capacity to adapt. You stop needing guarantees before taking action. You move forward knowing you can adjust as needed. This adaptability reduces paralysis. You may also experience increased appreciation for consistency over intensity. You value steady effort more than dramatic bursts of motivation. This mindset supports long-term success. Another shift is how you interpret pressure. Pressure becomes information about priorities rather than a threat to your well-being. You respond with organization instead of panic. You may also notice that your sense of personal agency strengthens. You see yourself as capable of shaping your direction rather than waiting for circumstances to change. Your assignment also involves learning to release what no longer supports growth. You let go of outdated goals, habits, and relationships without excessive attachment. This release creates space for better alignment. You may also experience greater comfort with solitude and reflection. You use quiet time to integrate experiences and clarify direction. This reflection deepens self-awareness. Another sign of growth is how you manage competing priorities. You make conscious trade-offs instead of trying to do everything. This prioritization reduces burnout and increases effectiveness. You may also notice that your emotional investment becomes more balanced. You care deeply, but you do not let outcomes define your identity. This balance protects mental health. Your assignment also includes learning to build resilience through routine, not just through crisis. You strengthen stability before challenges escalate. This prevention protects long-term well-being. You may also experience increased confidence in unfamiliar situations. You trust your ability to learn and adjust. This confidence supports exploration and opportunity. Another development is how you handle feedback. You receive it without becoming defensive or dependent. You use what is useful and release what is not. This learning orientation accelerates growth. You may also notice that your sense of purpose becomes more grounded in daily action. You focus on showing up consistently rather than waiting for perfect moments. This consistency builds momentum. Your assignment is not dramatic. It is disciplined. It is quiet. It is powerful because it is sustainable. As this second part settles, understand this. What you are being guided toward is not a single event or achievement, but a way of operating that supports continuous growth. Focus, discipline, emotional regulation, and responsibility are not temporary phases. They are the structure that allows every opportunity to be used wisely and every challenge to be navigated without collapse. This assignment is not about limitation. It is about refinement. It is about directing your energy where it can compound into stability, confidence, and long-term fulfillment. What you are building now is not just progress, but the capacity to keep progressing no matter what changes around you. As this alignment becomes more consistent, you may begin to notice that your sense of identity becomes quieter but stronger. You no longer need to constantly remind yourself or others of who you are becoming. Your behavior begins to reflect it naturally. You act with more intention, you speak with more clarity, and you carry yourself with greater steadiness. This quiet confidence is not something you perform. It is something you live. You may also notice that your relationship with pressure continues to evolve. pressure no longer automatically signals danger. Instead, it becomes a signal that something meaningful is being built. You respond by organizing, preparing, and pacing yourself rather than panicking or avoiding responsibility. This response allows you to remain effective even when expectations increase. Another important shift is how you relate to your past. Instead of replaying old mistakes or losses, you begin extracting lessons and using them to guide better decisions. The past becomes information rather than identity. This change frees mental and emotional space for present focus and future planning. You may also find that your sense of accountability becomes more internal. You do not wait for others to hold you responsible. You set your own standards and follow them. This internal accountability strengthens discipline and self-respect. As your assignment continues to guide your choices, you may notice that your tolerance for internal conflict decreases. When your actions do not match your values, you feel it more quickly and correct it sooner. This integrity keeps your life more coherent and reduces long-term regret. You may also experience increased comfort with making decisions that are not immediately rewarded. You trust that some benefits take time to appear. This long-term thinking supports investments in skills, relationships, and stability that may not provide instant gratification. Another shift is how you manage emotional labor. You stop over-explaining, over-justifying, and over-performing for acceptance. You engage authentically and allow others to meet you where you are. This authenticity reduces exhaustion and supports healthier connections. You may also notice that your attention to physical well-being increases. You recognize that mental clarity and emotional regulation depend on sleep, nutrition, and movement. Caring for your body becomes part of how you honor your assignment, not an afterthought. As identity stabilizes, your creativity may also become more purposeful. Instead of scattered ideas, you focus on developing and executing a few meaningful projects. This focus increases the quality and impact of your efforts. You may also find that your relationship with time becomes more respectful. You plan more realistically. You leave space for recovery. You stop scheduling yourself into constant overload. This time, stewardship supports sustainability. Another important development is how you handle emotional triggers. You recognize patterns sooner and interrupt them before they escalate. This self-awareness reduces unnecessary conflict and preserves mental energy. You may also experience increased comfort with solitude. You use alone time to reflect, plan, and restore, rather than escaping into constant stimulation. This reflective space strengthens clarity and emotional balance. As your assignment becomes more integrated into daily life, you may notice that your sense of fulfillment becomes more connected to effort than to outcomes. You take pride in showing up, learning, and improving, even when results are still developing. You may also find that your decision-making becomes less influenced by fear of judgment. You choose what aligns with your values rather than what avoids criticism. This courage supports authenticity and long-term satisfaction. Another shift is how you manage uncertainty about the future. You remain proactive rather than waiting for guarantees. You prepare, build skills, and stay flexible. This readiness reduces anxiety and supports opportunity. You may also notice that your sense of gratitude becomes more grounded. You appreciate growth, stability, and progress, rather than only dramatic wins. This grounded gratitude supports emotional well-being. As emotional regulation strengthens, your reactions during conflict may also become more constructive. You seek resolution rather than dominance or withdrawal. This maturity strengthens trust and cooperation. You may also experience increased willingness to invest in long-term learning. You pursue education, training, or mentorship that supports your goals. This investment compounds into competence and confidence. Another important development is how you relate to ambition. Ambition becomes less about proving worth and more about building capacity and contribution. This shift protects motivation from becoming fragile. You may also notice that your standards for how you spend your energy become clearer. You stop engaging in cycles that drain you emotionally or mentally. You protect your focus for what moves you forward. As your assignment continues to shape your choices, you may also experience increased confidence in handling transitions. When roles, environments, or goals shift, you adapt rather than resist. This adaptability preserves stability. You may also find that your emotional attachment to outcomes becomes more balanced. You care deeply, but you do not collapse when things do not go as planned. This balance supports persistence. Another shift is how you handle recognition. You accept appreciation without becoming dependent on it. You remain committed to growth, whether or not attention is present. This independence protects integrity. You may also notice that your sense of leadership in your own life strengthens. You guide your habits, priorities, and decisions with intention. This self-leadership builds confidence and reduces drift. As identity aligns more fully with responsibility, you may also experience increased comfort with structure. Schedules, routines, and plans feel supportive rather than restrictive. This structure allows creativity and growth to flourish. You may also find that your emotional reactions to success become calmer. You enjoy progress without becoming reckless or complacent. This emotional balance protects sustainability. Another important development is how you handle feedback from life itself. When results are not what you expected, you adjust your approach instead of abandoning your effort. This adaptability keeps learning active. You may also notice that your sense of purpose becomes less tied to dramatic moments and more tied to consistent contribution. You focus on what you can do each day to build forward. This steadiness supports long-term fulfillment. As your assignment continues to guide you, you may also experience increased clarity about what you no longer want to carry. Old fears, outdated expectations, and limiting beliefs lose their grip. This release lightens emotional load. You may also find that your trust in your own resilience grows. You know that even if plans change, you have the capacity to rebuild and adjust. This confidence reduces fear of taking responsible risks. Another shift is how you handle waiting periods. You no longer see them as wasted time. You use them to strengthen skills, refine plans, and restore energy. This productive patience supports readiness. You may also notice that your emotional maturity allows you to stay compassionate without sacrificing boundaries. You care, but you do not overextend. This balance preserves well-being and relationships. As this third part settles, understand this. Your single divine assignment is not about external accomplishment alone. It is about becoming someone who can navigate growth, pressure, and opportunity with steadiness and integrity. Every habit you build, every boundary you set, every moment you choose, regulation over reaction, is shaping the future you are moving into. This is not preparation for something small. It is preparation for stability, responsibility, and sustained progress. What is unfolding now is not loud, but it is powerful, because it is changing the way you operate at your core, and that change will continue to shape everything that follows.